Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, September 10th. If you are just tuning in, we've just gone through the NFL Power Rankings. In this segment, we're going to also rank a couple of things, this time turning our attention to the world of college football, doing a top 25 rankings there as well. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you are on YouTube, you can use the super chat feature to do the exact same thing as well. Also, if you have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, September 10th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the NCAA top 25 for you, my very own list here. We talked about the AP poll last week. I've got a bigger problem with it this week. I don't like especially the bottom of it, but we'll get to that here in just a second. At number 25, the Illinois Fighting Illini. The Illinois Fighting Illini come in here after taking down Kansas, a top 20 ranked team in the country. They just looked really solid defensively, offensively, and the AP poll put Northern Illinois in there, and I think Northern Illinois did a great job against a great team in Notre Dame. Or maybe not a great team, against a solid defense in Notre Dame. But I think Illinois was a little more impressive, and I'm giving them the nod over Northern Illinois. At 24, we have a group of 5 contender in here, one that even lost a game, Boise State. And Boise State looks so good. They took Oregon, a top 10 ranked program, to the ropes, all the way down to the wire. Ashton Jeanty did his thing. 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, adding to his total. He now on 2 games in this season, 467 yards and 9 touchdowns, which is ridiculous. He is a Heisman contender. The Boise State Broncos are in my top 25 at number 24. 23, another team that was not in the rankings last week, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Nebraska comes in, they look like they're finally back. You have little Patrick Mahomes and Dylan Raiola taking down a team in Colorado that's just way too overhyped, but that defense stepped up. The trenches looked good. The passing attack looked really good with new quarterback Raiola. They should be really good this year in the Big Ten. 22 goes to the Clemson Tigers, a team that I disrespected a little bit. I put them too low last week. I put them all the way down at 24. They put up 66. 66 against App State, 30 in the first half. Maybe Georgia's just that good, holding Clemson to 6 points, 3 points in the first half. Not where you want to be if you are Clemson, but they looked really good in their second game. They had the offense going. Clemson sits at 22 in my rankings. At 21, the Syracuse Orange, yet another team that was not ranked last week. Another team that, curiously for me, is not on the AP 25. I love this Syracuse team. They add former Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord. He looks awesome. That running game with their 2 running backs that can pass, catch, phenomenal. The wide receivers are great. They're big. They're physical. They're not afraid to go toe-to-toe with anyone. This is a really good Syracuse Orange team. That defense is solid as well. They're in the running for the ACC. It's interesting. It's kind of getting a little crowded at the top there outside of Miami. At number 20, Iowa State. The Cyclones come in after winning the Cy-Hawk rivalry for the first time in a while. They have a huge come-from-behind win in the second half where they had nothing going in the first half. Obviously going up against the vaunted defense of Iowa. Both offenses couldn't do anything. Iowa State, with their returning offense production, just was able to do a little bit more, win this game. Huge comeback win for the Cyclones. They slide into the top 25 at number 20. At 19, the Michigan Wolverines, and they just got embarrassed by the second best team in the nation in Texas. Texas is awesome. We already punished the Wolverines a lot for being close against Fresno State, but that offense, we didn't learn anything else. They moved down another 3 spots on my personal ranking to 19. And if their offense looks bad again, if they lose another game, they're going to fall out of that top 25. They're really in danger of that. But for now, they stay in the top 20 at number 19. 18 goes to the Louisville Cardinals. And the Louisville Cardinals are maybe my darling team. I might be a little too high on them, but that offense looks dangerous. If they can work on their rushing defense a little bit, they're going to be a scary team in the ACC. They take on Miami soon. That's going to be a really interesting game. I think that could be a lot closer. I forget if that's next week or this week, but keep an eye out for that. That could be a really good game. Louisville is number 18 on my top 25. 17 goes to Arizona. The Wildcats have a very explosive offense. It kind of didn't look too good. Last week, they survived a scare, a much closer game than you want it to be, but they look good anyway. I like this Arizona team a lot. I love Noah Fifita. I love T-Mac. This offense is going to carry them through a lot of games. They have the longest winning streak in the in all of college football now. So another thing going for them after Michigan lost theirs to Texas this week. At 16, the Oklahoma Sooners, and they barely survive a Group of 5 Houston team that looked a little disappointing. Now, that's not to say that Houston is a bad team. Houston's a very solid Group of 5 team, but they fall just outside of that G5, T5 that we're going to go over later on in this segment. So a little bit of concern for them for me. At 15, the LSU Tigers. They took care of business against a bad team after losing to a good team last week. They're up 4 spots to number 15. Not much to say about them until we see them against the SEC again. The offense is going to do its thing. I still need to see more out of the defense, but the defense looked good enough. At 14, Oklahoma State, and that was an ugly, ugly game that took place with Arkansas last week. I cannot give them anything for it. It was just ugly. They were able to escape with a double overtime victory, but they should have lost that game. They won because they're a good team. Good teams find a way to win. That's how I'm taking a look at it. But it was a scare, and it was not a good scare. I don't love this Oklahoma State team as much as I used to. Same thing can be said for number 13, the Kansas State Wildcats. Yet again, another team that just cannot quite get it done against a good Group of 5 team in Tulane. But they probably should have lost that game. They got lucky with some penalties at the end that stopped Tulane from really making a statement win. But this is a very good Kansas State team. Again, good teams find a way to win. Bad teams find a way to lose. And sometimes the refs just play a part in that. Kansas State escapes with a win against Tulane, a game that at the very least should have gone to overtime. Kansas State wins in wild fashion. And now we get to the top 12. This right here, this top 12 is, I think, undeniably the top 12 teams in the nation. You can have them in just about any order you want, but 13 to 25, I think all of those are arguable. I think 12 to 1, those 12 teams are by far the best teams, and they have separated themselves. Now, you can say, hey, maybe they have a chance to fall out. They do. My number 12 team is Oregon. They looked really bad, but they've won both games. They're just super disappointing. I still think they're a playoff team. And I think comfortably these top 12 teams are the top 12 teams in the nation until something drastic happens. So, getting into these top 12, the Oregon Ducks. Again, they've looked really disappointing. They almost lose to Boise State, who I love Boise State as a G5 team. They're very good. The Ducks need to get offensive line help now. Their defense needs to step up now, because if they play a good Big Ten team, and they play like this, they're going to be in trouble. Dylan Gabriel's doing his thing offensively. They're not getting any big plays, though, and they need to get some of that before they fall out of this top 12. But for now, they're still in that top group. They've done enough. 11, Penn State. They almost lose to Bowling Green, and Bowling Green's still a solid team. Everyone thinks everyone's underrating Bowling Green a little bit, but it's not enough that Penn State should have looked like this. Penn State was in real danger of losing this game, and Drew Aller, if he can continue to play like this, they shouldn't be in position to lose this game because their defense should be better than this. Need to see more of that defense. I'm very impressed by Drew Aller, though. I thought he wouldn't be this good. At 10, Utah, and they stay in the top 10, but it's very concerning. They do not have their best player. Cam Rising, hurt yet again. They look so good with him, and then they look so bad without him. The defense is going to do enough to keep them in it, but if they don't have Cam Rising as the season comes down the stretch, they're not going to stand a chance in the Big 12. If they do, I might pencil them in as champions right now because I think they're a top 5 team in the country. They don't have Cam Rising, though, and we need to know how severe that injury is before we can put them any higher than 10. At number 9, the USC Trojans. They've done enough. Their defense has done enough for me to put them in the top 10. They take down LSU last week, a hard-fought victory, and then they take care of business against a bad team. They move up to the top 10, stay in that top group of teams. Same thing with Miami. I think Miami clearly head and shoulders. It's their conference to lose in the ACC, but that's not to say they should get comfortable. Louisville is going to provide a challenge. They play them. They play Syracuse, another team that might provide a challenge. Miami needs to keep their head on a swivel and play like they did against Florida, like they did this week, if they want to stay clearly on top. At number 7, Tennessee, and that offense is scary. They take down a top 25 team in NC State, one that I had outside of my top 25 personally, but Tennessee's offense is dangerous. They built pretty solidly in the trenches, and that's why this team is so good. This is a team that could make a lot of noise, and if everything plays out the way it's going, they should be a shoo-in for the playoffs. At number 6 is Missouri, and maybe I'm a little high on them. I have them ranked the same place as the AP poll, surprisingly. I like this team a lot. Missouri is a team that I thought would be the first one out, but their offense is doing its thing. I want to see their defense keep this up. Their defense is the big thing that this whole thing hinges on. They lost some great defensive talent to the draft, to the transfer portal. We'll see what happens, but for now, Missouri sits at number 6. Heading into the top 5, Alabama. They almost lost this one. If you look at the box score, it doesn't look close, but in the third quarter, they were only up by 1 point. That's not where you want to be. Alabama is a very good football team. They're able to show that they can pull away quickly, but it was a little sketchy there. A little sketchy there for a second. You can't play that bad against some teams and be able to come back if you play a Georgia or, you play a Tennessee. Teams like that in the SEC, you need to play your best football, but they show that they can score points in bunches at the end there. So they drop a spot, but they stay in the top 5. And I think the top 4 in the nation is kind of undebatable. At number 4, Ole Miss. Ole Miss has dominated everyone. Now, granted, they haven't played the greatest competition, but they look good in the trenches, and that offense with Jackson Dart is going to do its thing. If they can hold up defensively, especially on the defensive and offensive lines, they'll be able to be a very good team this year. Number 3 goes to Ohio State, and I'm punishing them only because, actually, I'm not even punishing them. I had them at number 3 last week. But we saw what Texas did to Michigan. They pulled ahead of Ohio State in the discussions. They're clearly the second best team in the country. Ohio State is a close third, and they could overtake it if they do good against some good competition. They just haven't played that competition, gotten that statement win like Georgia and Texas have. So for now, they sit at number 3. At number 2, that put Texas dominating in the Big House, a tough place to go in and play. They just shut down that Michigan team. Didn't allow a touchdown until garbage time. Their offense got just about everything they wanted. Texas looks like a very dangerous team, and I cannot wait to see more of them. And at number 1, the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia's scary, man. You saw what Clemson did to App State, and that only makes me think, how good is this Georgia defense? If Clemson is putting 66 points up against a solid group of 5 team, what are they doing? What makes the Georgia defense hold them to 6 points? They scored 60 more points against App State than Georgia, and I don't think that is a 60-point difference between teams. Maybe I'm just way off here. Maybe they needed a week to click, but Georgia is a very, very scary team. Before we finish off this segment, I have been teasing this group of 5, top 5. Let's hit that real quick. At number 5 in the group of 5, top 5, we have Tulane. Their quarterback, Darian Mensah, looks like an NFL caliber player. He looked really good against Kansas State. They lost the game, which is why they sit at 5. Number 4, Memphis, a very solid group of 5 team, continuing to collect some wins. They're in the receiving vote section right now. They're a dangerous team. Northern Illinois, of course, they just knock off Notre Dame, a team that I don't have in my top 25. That offense is too bad for them to be there. I like Northern Illinois. I need to see them have it another time as opposed to just one big victory for them to be higher on this list. At 2, UNLV, they again are in the receiving vote section. They just continue to get more and more quality wins, and that leaves Boise State at the top. Boise State is ranked in my top 25 at 24. They are awesome. Ashton Genty, Heisman candidate, maybe even Heisman frontrunner right now. Boise State seems to have a lock on that group of 5 spot as long as the season doesn't spiral from here. But let me know what you think of my top 25. Let me know what you think of anything else we talked about in this segment. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish off the show talking about NFL rookie quarterbacks and their performances. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.